Blessed love, I am the Honorable Priest Isaac. I am an official priest within the realms of Rastafari of the Ethiopia Africa Black International Congress. I also hold a certification in the craft of astronomy from Politecnico di Milano in Italy. Our universe and its maker has always been an intriguing subject for humankind. Astronomy is the study of everything in the universe beyond the Earth's atmosphere. Ancient astronomy is similar, but pays special attention to the physical and spiritual values of stars, planets, moons, and other celestial objects. It also brings in the terrestrial component, being things on an earthly plane, such as plants, human organs, and connects them to the heavenly bodies. In this course, you will learn the makeup of various planets and stars, how to locate them in the night sky, along with their associated constellations. You will also be taught about the earliest civilizations known for their astronomical comprehension, namely Kush, also known as ancient Ethiopia, Kemet, called Egypt today, the Dogons, and the Bozos, as well as the civilization of Sumer. You will also learn about black holes, their nature and origin, as well as how the ancients viewed them. Ancient astronomy is the mother of archaeoastronomy and astrotheology. Both subject areas are covered by the Priest Isaac's Institute of Holistic Knowledge. Sign up today. Visit our website, priestisaacinstitute.com, or email us, priestisaacinstitute@gmail.com for more information.
We do say salam to and a styling to each and everyone. Give thanks for your presence with us. We glorify Negus and Agas in all doings and saying, all praises to Emperor Haile Selassie the first, from beginning to eternal life without end. Royal family, I'm very thankful for your presence, and we give thanks for such a congress, the EABIC, Ethiopia Africa Black International Congress, established by our worthy founder leader, our president, our God and King in flesh, the Right Honorable King Emmanuel Charles Edwards. And we're thankful for this order established by such an individual. We're thankful for the Sabbath day. We're thankful for the order of the Lenten moment, of which we are now celebrating the resurrection. We are now celebrating the sealing of the 40 plus days of fasting and the 40 plus days of praying for those who are fasting and praying. We are thankful for this moment. But what I want to do this evening, without any further ado, is to go straight into a specific subject area as it relates to the theological concept of the Bobo Shanti, Lenten moment, fasting and praying that many of you who may not be of this fold would have heard about. And of course, there is a specific storyline that goes with our fasting and praying, and it has to do with the crucifixion of Christ. So, in the same way that this time of the year has to do with the crucifixion and the resurrection of Christ, you hear that same concept coming from the halls of the Bobo Shanti. I would not even say the Rasta man, because many Rasta man and many Rasta people separate themselves from that and say, well, no, we don't know what the Bobo them are deal with. And them a deal with lent and some resurrection thing. Me don't know what the Bobo them a deal with. And I've heard this for myself, so I'm not even asking, of an opinion. But the reality, family, we're going to take the time tonight to just look at the concept of the Christ figure being crucified. I mean, of all places in Egypt, Jamaica, specifically at Mother White Bridge. You may say, Mother who? Mother White Bridge. What is that? Who is that? Who is Mother White? And which bridge? Yeah. So what I'm going to go into this evening, family, may be new to some, and to some it's something you would have heard before, and to others you may be well acquainted with it. Because the thing is, this is a deep science, and before we get there, I want to begin on a different level. I want ones to comprehend the importance of the science of nature, because this is where it all began. So I have to start this conversation from this angle here. The importance of nature, the understanding that the copycat world, you may call it Babylon, you may say the wicked world, but it's a copycat world. The copycat world doesn't really come with anything authentic. No brand new ideas here. The copycat world, anything that is structured, you would be surprised that they stole the concept from someone else, more than likely from the ancient African world, whatever it may be. So even if it's religious, even if it's something you think you burn the most fire upon, for example, the Lenten moment. In fact, before that, you could be burning fire on Halloween. I don't blame you. We're not dealing with no ghosts and no goblins and no walking bones and all of that. But you see, Halloween has been fashioned over a certain time frame where within the universe, within the atmosphere, there's certain spiritual portals that are being opened. And that is why on the time frame of Halloween, you have Haile Selassie's coronation when he became emperor, 2nd of November, 1930. Even you have the coronation of Menelik II, which was the 3rd of November, and that would be 1889. All of these special dates. Haile Selassie becoming the Dejemash in the early 1900s, and that is the 1st of November. You comprehend? So when you look at all of this now, look at it in its depths. These are very special days to I and I as Rastafari, celebration days. We consider them spiritual days, just right there coming off of Halloween, which is a spiritual day itself. That's why you have these ghostly characters roaming the streets. And at the same time, without speaking of Halloween or even the days I just mentioned, within the world it's understood that other cultures celebrate this time as the Day of the Dead. And the thing is, the Day of the Dead is the interpretation may be somewhat Western, but it's really respect for the ancestors. That's what it is. So someone may tell you, well, they speak to the dead. You can't speak to no dead, but that's not nothing goes up. You cannot speak to no dead. You understand? You can communicate with your ancestors, which is a different thing, really. But because of the English barrier, we comprehend what you're trying to say. So All Saints Night. That's the same time frame, or All Saints Day, the same Halloween period, All Saints Day, the Day of the Dead, and yet still special celebration days within Rastafari. So I'm saying all of this to say that the wicked world knows how to use special sacred days and create their own fairy tale, superstition, idealistic belief, and cover it over the sacred days. Even down to their New Year's Day is aligned with the parahelion of the sun and the connection to the earth. And other days, even down to Christmas. We all know that that is the time when you have the literal resurrection of the sun, in the sense of coming from the southern to the northern, even after the winter solstice. So it's a lot of science. And then if you come down to the structure of governance and the structure of institutions, and as corrupt and as manipulative as it is, the educational system, everything has been copied. Religion, I mean, wow, everything has been copied. So what you need to understand is the origin of all of this. And this is why the whole science of this time of the year, the Easter, the resurrection, everything has to do with the sun. It's not necessarily sun worship. Maybe some are worshiping the sun, but the origin of it is just understanding nature. That is all. And let me show you something here, family. I think this is extremely important. my students who literally take my courses, etc., they understand this. This is clear cut. This is like elementary. You have to comprehend this, that the wise ancient ones would have understood the mechanics of the sun, moon, stars, planets, everything. And they would have taken that knowledge, hear me good, they would have taken that knowledge and transferred it into hieroglyphs, into the first language, into writings, into pictures, etc. So the great hieroglyphs, Meduneter, that many of us revere, that came from a higher source. What's the higher source? Well, basically the movement of the heavens, the movement of the stars, the cosmos in general. As we highlight from time to time, you look at the shape of the galaxy and you look at the shape of the hurricane. They have the same shape, even the way that the planets move around the sun, and you look at how the atom is formed. Everything is extremely similar. Microcosm and macrocosm, the universe is a mirror of itself. So that's why we could build pyramids and monuments to echo what's taking place in the heavens. That's a book by itself. It's not a regular book and turn the pages, but I mean, the lesser world didn't understand that. So they give the credit of the first book to somebody else. But that's a book. The pyramid itself is a book, a living book, a deep encyclopedia, a library, if you want to say. So when you understand this now, again, all of this was done because there was an understanding, there was a comprehension of what's taking place around us, what's taking place in the heavens, not just how the sun is moving, if it's not moving and all of that, but even the biological makeup. Solar biology, we call it, the makeup of the sun. We knew this a long time ago. This is why the concept of the feathered snake could have been created, because we already understood the 11-year sunspot cycle thousands upon thousands upon thousands of years ago. And we have proven that by using the understanding of, again, the feathered snake, the snake with wings, the flying serpent as such, which aligns perfectly with the sunspot cycle on a computer graph. I think we would have covered that a million times. What say you? So I wouldn't really, I wouldn't go into the depths at the moment. But of course, so many of our documentaries at least would pinch at that. So what I'm saying, the movements of the sun again, very key and very important to even the story of the crucifixion, just the story fashion of the crucifixion of the Christ. So the Christ figure now is the sun. Which one? Both of them. S-U-N, S-O-N. That's really what it's all about. So let me repeat again. In fact, I did not even complete what I was saying. That the ancient ones would take the heavenly or the celestial understanding of what you see in the sky, basically. And they would have placed it in Medunete form and information that you could understand, almost as if kindergarten level. Now, those of us who witness this, we call this mythology or the mythos. This is just esoteric writing. This is just symbolic and all of that. It's symbolic. It's not just symbolic, but it is symbolic, but not just. Because any authentic, symbolic, esoteric writing will become flesh one day, or it is continually going through a cycle of manifestation. That's very, very important for you to understand. I just showed you the pattern there. The ancient ones observe the heavens. They understood the constellations. They understood the mathematics of the sun, distance of planets. They got all of it. They knew it. They were that wise, and they took that and they placed it in a formation in a way that ones could understand, what you could read, that you could repeat now to someone else, and in picture form as well, with the hawk head and the bird and the sun with the hands and all sorts of things. But they are sending a message. They are giving you an esoteric story. So you have storylines and mystic theology of individuals going through underworlds and individuals passing through the fire and all of that, but it's symbolic of something greater that is taking place in the heaven. But the point is, one day, that story, whether it's the story of Heru, whether it's the story of Asa, whether it's the story of Joshua, whatever story it is that you consider esoteric, it must come to flesh, or it is naturally going through a cycle of fulfillment continually. And that is why we would say, well, the Christ is in you and the resurrection is in you, and the God is in you, and you are the Osiris that is resurrecting and all of that, because the story that you read is really about you. That is why in ancient West Africa, Anansi, we were all Anansi, all stories belong to Anansi, because the Anansi is within you. The Christ figure is within you, but that does not negate that a specific Christ figure will come to even show you the techniques to put that same Christ within you. So although you would have gone through your crucifixion, everyone goes through their crucifixion. You get it? I hope you're following. Everyone goes through their tribulation. As it's the time of resurrection, everyone should be resurrecting. Check yourself. This is your resurrection. But that does not negate, that does not take away the fact that there was a Christ, a specific individual who a storyline does fit of the crucifixion and the resurrection. Oh, well, brother, I don't believe in nobody dying and coming back to life. I said you as well are going through your crucifixion and your resurrection. Have you ever died? Well, okay. Maybe reincarnation. That's one good way of looking at it. That's not the answer, of it all, but that's a great point. Beautiful point that you just made, you know. Remember, the same Christ, after he was resurrected, according to the story, because you must understand, let's not fool ourselves now, family. When you read the scripture, if you are reading it and you are locked in as if you are literally not just, reading either a storybook or a clear-cut history book, you're making a sad, serious mistake. You have to have an esoteric way of thinking to even walk through the Bible, or else you are in trouble. All you have to do is read the resurrection story in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and as a historian, make sense of that for me, as a historian. Now, we would have covered that several times. I don't want to spend this time with that, but you can read it for yourself if you're really interested in knowledge and you're serious. Read the resurrection story and you would see the vast difference, which shows you that it is an esoteric expression happening here. You understand? Not just for people that saw the same thing and have two, four different versions of it. That does happen. I agree. Yeah, but that's not the case. You see, when you study, and we are going through that now, when you study the understanding of what these stories are saying, you see the science within it right away. Okay, the sun again. We mentioned the importance of the sun in the ancient time. Remember the Tutankhamun with the feather and the snake is the sun. The Lord Pakal and the mask is the son of God. That's why you see the sun as the halo, because the halo is the sun. So certain ones carry the sun, not just the sun, you know. But then now, for example, in ancient Kemet, the sun used to be on top of the head of the wise ones. And you could see after a while the sun came behind the head, all, science within itself. Now, the Pisces constellation is important here because the Christ figure of 2,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, the time frame would be considered for sure, in the Pisces age. As I would say, we are coming out of the Pisces age now. Everyone is aware of that. Aquarius age going into that. Everyone is aware of that. In fact, King Cypher Selassie would have literally given us the date. If I'm not mistaken, it's in 1887, if I'm not mistaken, where you could officially say the beginning of the Aquarius age, or the cusp, as he would refer to it as. And as I would have explained many times, these are not simple, like overnight kind of thing. The beginning is like a very sensitive period where you can observe the beginning again of the transfer over. But we are really feeding strongly off of the Pisces energy, and we are definitely feeding strong off of the Aquarius energy. A very interesting time to be in, really. And the Pisces is the constellation of the fish. And so we will highlight again why the fish has been seen to be so important within religion in general, not just within the Christ figure of the Bible, but within religion in general. So even before the concept of the cross was the accepted symbol of the Messiah figure, it was the concept of the fish. And why was that? Again, it had to do with the age, because the age now was that of the fish, or, well, the fishes. If you're going to use the biblical language, it's fishes the Bible uses as the plural for fish. But in modern day English, it's just fish. So you have two fish and three fish, but Christ fed the people with two fishes. See, so that's where the two fish came in. It's the Pisces age again. That's why he was with the fishermen, the Pisces age again. When he resurrected, he ate broiled fish and honey, the Pisces age again. So the fish thing is very deep because that was the age. That is the symbol. That's the time frame that the sun governed. The sun, sun, governed the Pisces constellation in this time. And that is why in the New Testament, the Pisces man, which is the Christ figure, told the disciples that when you see the man with the water pitcher going into the house, you follow him, because they wanted to know what was next. So he was showing them, this is what's next. A man is going to come with a water pitcher. You follow him into the house. That is ancient astronomy all the way, because the man with the water pitcher is the next age, the Aquarius age. And to just put the cherry on top, man, follow him into the house. Now everyone knows that the zodiac constellations are referred to as houses. The house of Capricorn, and the house of, of Libra and Virgo, etc., follow him into the house. The Aquarius house, the man with the water pitcher. It's astronomy being spoken of here, the next age. So this is why even in Islamic tradition, you have the prophet known as Al-Qaeda, and he is seen as another serious fish god. You know, you see him riding the fish actually, and usually have a fish in his hand. He's Al Qaeda, known as the Green One. And his greenness is very symbolic of nature as well. It is said that when he passes through certain places, the place just, flourish and becomes green. The greenery becomes obvious. And at the same time, he's said to be a mystic. I think the Sufis would be those who would admire Al Qaeda, the green one, as well. The closest thing you may get to even a god in Islam outside of maybe Muhammad. So you would see him also expressed with the fish in his hand. You see him passing through the mountains. You see him with the sun behind of him in a glow, which is also symbolic of the presence of the God in flesh. And again, the Pisces symbol, the symbol of the fish. So this is why now, even in this time, you see the fish is a very serious symbol, even during the time of the Lenten period, because you have those that when it's Lent, I'm not speaking of Bobo Shanti now, I'm speaking of people that go through the Lent. They drop everything that they eat as far as meat, and the only animal they continue to consume is fish. Even lobster and crab and those who eat them kind of stuff, but they just eat fish alone during the Lent. That is their concept of, I guess, toning down. Bobo Shanti now, as you know, they're Bobo Shanti that eat fish, but during the Lenten time, they stop eating the fish. Although elders would say, Prince Emmanuel, months after, don't be eating up no fish, but I know who I could imagine that. But anyway, I would not go there. But someone's, as soon as the Lent is done, brrr, fry fish. You understand? But we spoke about that a few evenings ago on the tiger's nest. I wouldn't go too far into that. But the god Vishnu, you see Vishnu coming out of the Vishnu, you see, and Vishnu is also highly symbolic of even Jonah. That's why you see Jonah coming out of the fish as well. It's symbolic of the age, it's symbolic of the time, and it's symbolic of the resurrection, the movements of the sun. So at the same time, that's why you see those that are in religion. That's why I began by expressing to you that you can't be throwing away the baby with the bath water. Well, I didn't say that, but that's basically what I meant. You must have an understanding that the world itself, the world of religion, the world of governance, even business and the judicial system, all of these things were taken from an ancient science older than them. Man, even down to the machinery of this day. We have showed you the glyphs with the Black Hawk helicopter and the tanks and the hovercraft in what's that place? Aswan. So Abydos specifically in the temple at Abydos, you have military machinery already seen thousands of years ago, almost 4,000 years ago. And today we consider this to be new technology. So almost every single thing that we see before us is something stolen. Ideas stolen, concepts stolen. But now we, the originator of it, we didn't steal it from nobody. We got it from what was around us. So you would see the Pope of Rome, you check his mitre, which is the cap on his head. You see the priests of Dagon, and you look at the Sumerian tablets, you see the fish god specifically. It's the very same thing, and all symbolic of the time, and all symbolic of the season, all symbolic of the age. But as I said, this is the science that was used to express. This is what masonry and all of that stuff is all about, this secret business, and those who know the code, and those who know the sign, and a heap of things. It's deep science, really, in its origin. I mean, the large mason stuff today is a heap of like almost like kiddie games. But those of you who may even be a part of that stuff, and these regular Rotary Club and Lions Club and all of that stuff that may have a little touch of it, and those who are in the deep Masonic clubs that are, put on your apron and all of that, understand that this science came from the builders of the pyramid. Be aware of that. Those are the original Masons. And it wasn't a science to carry no levels of subliminal messages to fool people off. No Illuminati for sure. Illuminati or illuminated by the light. That's really what it was. We aligned ourselves with the heavens. That's why we built monuments that mimicked the heavens, that mirrored the movements of the universe. And that's what Masonry is all about, understanding the science and the secret, and this handshake and that handshake, and this close and that close. And your fez and the square hat that you wear when you graduate, all of that is Masonry. Your gown and the square hat that you wear when you graduate. I wore a couple of those already, but it's all right. And the tassel and all of that stuff. The four corners, they represent the four corners of the square, the four corners of the earth. The square and the circle and the tassel, I think they call it, the stuff that spins around, that represents the circles, the square and the circle. That's why they call a wrestling ring the squared circle. So masonry is all around you, eh? Don't fool yourself. All the fire we burning on masonry and all of that stuff, almost everything has a symbol. The shirt you wear have a symbol, whatever the symbol is, whatever the company is. Where did they get that symbol? You gotta look deep into all of this stuff, the appliance in your home, the car that you drive. What type of car you drive? What's the symbol on the front of the car? Is it that stuff that Toyota has? Where did that come from? Is it, or what does it mean, by the way? Symbols, they're all around us, huh? Okay, we use them every day, eh? Okay, and we burn the most fire. Oh, fire burn this, no 6-point star, no 5-point star. But what type of blender are you using to make your shake? The waffles you made this morning, what's the brand of the waffle maker? I mean, this is serious since we're talking about symbols, All right. But anyway, at the same time, as I said, the concept of the resurrection, the concept of the crucifixion, then the resurrection, is an ancient concept. It's not religion, not just the setting of the sun, the crucifixion, literally with the cross. So you can obviously see for yourself that this is stolen science. You can see for yourself that the ancient ones
would have comprehended again the symbol of life, carrying the sun in the form of resurrection and all praises and honor. Isis and Nephte giving praises to the sun, and Tahuti, or thought in the form of the baboon, has been again copycat. Oh, yeah, or stolen, I should say, by the copycat. And that is obvious. So even the whole concept of the Easter bunny and the Easter egg, and someone's, trying to say they don't know where it fits in. It fits in quite well. In the same way that Santa fraud fits in quite well with Christmas. The Easter funny fits in quite well with the egg too. Or rabbits can't lay egg. You don't even know what these killers, rockabye baby on a treetop, these murderers are thinking about when they bring these foolishness to us. When the wind blows, the cradle will rock. When the bow breaks, I think that's what kind of evaded some of us. When the bow breaks, so the bow, we kind of lost it there. Yeah, because I don't think I was really conscious of what a bow was as a child. But if you would have said when the branch breaks, the cradle will fall, huh? And down will come baby, cradle and all. Why would you want to do that? So the Easter egg stuff now. Again, remember, we're dealing with a specific science. If you didn't know, the sun is the symbol of fertility. If you didn't know, the fish is also the symbol of fertility. That is why they say when you open a fish, especially at a time like now, filled with eggs, fertility, fertile. This is the time of spring, northern hemisphere, fertility, fertile. If you didn't know, the bunny rabbit is the symbol of fertility. Oh yeah, man. You never heard them say, man, they multiply like if they're rabbits. In fact, you watch the cartoons, you see them, you see the rabbit cartoons now, animation. You see the rabbit behind the typewriter or the calculator doing all the accounting. Why? Because the rabbit knows how to multiply. Yeah. So the rabbit now with an egg, more fertility again. So the whole thing is about fertility to some degree, wherein there's nothing wrong with that. That's nature. This is what I'm saying. But when the enemy steals your stuff and does it in his own way, it obviously becomes corrupt. And if you're not wise enough, again, you would throw away the baby with the bath water because that is not your stuff. You don't know you're looking at stolen goods that have been repainted. So when we take back what's ours and present it in its original form, you may be looking at us now and say, boy, wait, Bobo deal with Lent. The sunny side up egg. Remember, it's the egg, the egg, the Easter egg. The East star is the Eastern star. In fact, they have a whole Masonic group called the Eastern Star. The Eastern Star is the sun. And this is why, again, the same egg. How interesting. When you bust the egg and you fry it down, you get it sunny, sun. The egg, the same egg, sunny side, up. Easter, the bunny and the egg. The whole fascination during Easter with the fish on the beach and the sea. They're going to see Easter Sunday, Easter Monday, these are the big sea days. People go to see even Good Friday. These are the big sea days. Bobo Shanti stay away from the sea until after. Mm-hmm. So this is very important. You see, it's, I know that many ones are saying with the Mother White Bridge story. Well, again, this is not the entertainment hour. We come to do this for those who want to understand, maybe even what they know already. But the comprehension was missing. And it's rather worse for those who don't even know anything about this realms of conversation. They needed this. Many of you listening needed this so that you can even comprehend the next level properly without any distractions in the mind. Remember, we were not fed on anything like this. So if you just run into this in the middle of the night, you may think that it's spookism. You may think that this is Halloween. You may think that this is something that is away from the order of the Black I Am. And you see, that's where the stolen goods has confused many of us. So again, the sun is used as the symbol of life and of the God figure. And it's not just the son that carries the halo. His mother carries the halo. John the Baptist carries the halo. The disciples carries the halo, which is the symbol of life and halo is the sun, and that's why the Bible is the Holy Bible, because the holy is halo, halo, from the sun, life. As a member of the Congress, as I would have expressed several times, you have to be very vigilant. Now, vigilant is usually with your eyes, but you got to be vigilant with your ears too. I don't know if that's the right thing to say, but I'm saying it. You got to be aware. You got to listen. You have to take record. You have to take account. You have to be almost like a scribe in the sense of taking the information and being able to store it away and analyze it. And I've learned that for the last, 20, how many years now we have been a part of this Congress officially, and for sure almost 30 years, hailing Rastafari in fullness. And when we hail Rastafari, it's prophet, priest, and king. But to say an official member of the Congress, 20 plus years. But, my thing has always been understanding what I'm a part of. And as a teacher, from day one, I needed to get my story properly. So, as you know, I would have been and still am very inquisitive of my father's tradition, the Honorable King Emmanuel Charles Edwards, the order that he would have set down, the tradition that he would have given us, the history, all of these different things. I would have not only literally asked of ones to, to express to me, but I would have recorded it, not only in my head, but with pen, paper, with even with cassette players, especially in those times. And as you know, I would have done interviews with several individuals, elders that would have sat, mamas and papas that would have walked with the Honorable King Emmanuel Charles Edwards. And again, just being a part of the order, being within the service, being on the altar, hearing the different versions of different stories as it relates to our father, the Honorable King Emmanuel Charles Edwards, his history and what he would have established. you know. And again, it's almost like Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John sometimes. When you go through the scripture and you find you get in different versions of technically the same story. And then now you have to become wise. You yourself have to become a mathematician to understand the time frame you're dealing with and who you're dealing with, and analyzing one story and comparing and contrasting it to another story. All of that is important. And it doesn't take away maybe what one person saw. What one person saw may not be what the other person saw. And we just have to comprehend that. So anyway, my main point is this. During this time, this is the resurrection time now. We have a 40-day and 40-night fasting period. During this period, which we are now coming to an end of, I was speaking to some degree of the fasting, especially on the tiger's nest. Now, it's not the fasting I want to get into here. I want to get into the storyline. The storyline is that Christ was crucified in Egypt, Jamaica. Some say 2,000 years ago, which adds a bit of, I would say, confusion to the tale now. Now, you see, let me tell the story first. So Christ was crucified 2,000 years ago in Egypt, Jamaica. Now, there's a whole storyline behind this. In fact, he was arrested the Sunday, and on the Monday they had him parading around the place and brought him before the judge and Pontius Pilate, etc. That whole story there. And then he was taken to prison. Some elders actually say he was taken to Saint Catherine's prison. He was literally put on trial and he was hung. This is very important. He was hung on the Tuesday and he did not die. And according to the law of the land, when you hang a man and he doesn't die, then you are supposed to release him. And then now, they did not do that. In fact, they crucified him on the Wednesday. This took place at Mother White Bridge. He was put in the tomb. Of course, spent all Thursday in the tomb, and he resurrected the Friday morning. Now, somebody may say, but Ras, that don't sound like 3 days and 3 days, 3 days and 3 nights neither. 3 days and 3 nights is 72 hours. I hear you say that yourself. Now, hold on. Listen. Listen. As I said from the beginning of this is not necessarily comparing our reality or even our sacred stories to something that our confuser have tried to feed us. So 3 days, 3 nights, 72 hours, I'm not into all of that. I'm telling you, he was put into the tomb on Wednesday and he resurrected specifically on the Friday morning to keep his Sabbath. Now, in a nutshell, that's basically it. When you understand it, and of course, I'm not going to try to convince anyone that they have to believe or don't believe, or I'm not into that, or, Rastafari thing, or Emmanuel this, or no Cruz. I don't know where you are. But this is a science class, Yeah, this ain't make-believe. This is a science class. I'm giving you the culture of the ancient scientists amongst us. And if we don't understand, that's our problem. you comprehend. But give thanks, there are those amongst us that can explain the science in depth. Now, I did a program once asking why is it that Rastaman bun cross? Because Rastafari bun cross, trust me, heavy too. But we would see Haile Selassie the first, and we see the king kissing the cross, and I mean the king is an Orthodox Christian. So ones would say, well, listen, man, that just comes with the faith. That's nothing for you to knock your head up, but we Rastaman, we don't really deal with no cross. You know what I mean? Now, actually, I know for a fact that in Christianity as you know it, the symbol of the cross is really seen as the symbol of just death, nothing else. And it is that space where their Messiah was killed. And because of that, that symbol is a precious symbol. Now, the mind frame amongst many Ethiopian Orthodox Christians might be the exact same too, and I wouldn't doubt that at all. But the cross is much deeper than that. That is why in Ethiopia, unlike any other Christian sector, or whatever you want to call it, you have countless, I think, of versions of the cross. Well, there may be in a specific amount, but for me, the lay person, is a heap of different type of crosses they have in Ethiopia. It's not just no simple stick, like a horizontal line and a vertical line, and you have a cross. No way. You have crosses as many crosses as snowflakes. You see the different pictures of the snowflakes. That's how it looks when you look at the different pictures of the Ethiopian crosses. You see what I'm saying? So the fact that you have so many different versions of the cross in Ethiopia, beautiful crosses, some of the crosses have about 27 crosses on one cross. It is showing you that there's a high science behind the concept of the cross, more than just the murder weapon for the Son of God. Now, of course, there's a whole science behind the cross itself as it relates to the resurrection of the man, the vertical and the horizontal, the man laying down and the man standing up. Yeah, that's within the whole science of the cross. Anyone can see that the ankh itself, very, very similar, to that of the cross. And the ankh is symbolic of life. That's why it has the womb, unlike the regular cross at the same time. So this is very important, honorable people, when you see the cross now, the Southern Cross. Remember the Southern Cross, known as the cross. This is a constellation. This is something you can't deny when you see it. It's obvious. You don't have to believe in constellations to see in the southern sky several stars in such close proximity, at least apparent proximity, that they make this beautiful, beautiful figure that just happens to look like a cross. And again, this has nothing to do with what you believe. If you believe the world is flat, round, if you believe in astronomy, astrology, whatever, anyone can look and see, hey, that looked like a cross, the Southern Cross. And interestingly, on the day of the cross, which is Maskell, the 27th day of September, the Southern Cross stands perfectly erect at midday. Any midday, because the earth is spinning, as you know. So any midday, it aligns with midday perfectly. That's the Southern Cross on Maskell, the 27th, the day of the commemoration of the finding of the true cross of Christ. So Queen Helena and her finding of the cross, hey, listen, If that's the case, maybe that's the case. I don't know the fullness, but what I know is that the fullness of the astronomy, the ancient astronomy, aligns with the date and the time perfectly. Now, again, there are those that would have infiltrated and may have said, hey, listen, let us put a different twist around the story. They kept the date and they changed the story a bit and said that Constantine mother was the one who lit the fire and found the cross. I'm very skeptical of that story, I must say. But I'm not going to be upset with Constantine and his mommy and say, all right, fire burn that. No, I study ancient astronomy and I come to realize that that same day, the same 27th day of September, is perfectly aligned with the astronomical clock as it relates to the Southern Cross. So anywhere between the 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th, and 29th, around those days, you have the cross perfectly aligned with the midday. So that is science there by itself. So now the concept of the cross is not a European concept. The Lalibela church of Keros Georgis is not no Greek cross, when it's clearly seen in the heavens. The concept of Christ being crucified in Egypt, Jamaica, 2,000 years ago, of course, that's strange to many. And within the fold of Bobo Shanti, there are those that will tell you that it's not 2,000 years ago. There are those who are very adamant that it's 2,000 years ago, but there are those that will tell you, no, this really happened in the 60s. And there are those that will tell you that the 2,000 years ago story is somebody brought that into the fold. Now, this is another thing, I must say. I got to bring this one up. In this latter time, I come to realize that many things of this Congress, of this order, that we would have considered to be gospel, many ones are now saying, well, we got to revisit. Because the Mother White Bridge story, I think is somebody bring that in. Now, there was this small little book, not the Black Supremacy, another book. I think it's the book entitled something with guide, let us guide the way forward, something of the sort. It came from the Bobo Shanti headquarters, from King Emmanuel himself. And within the book, it mentioned the crucifixion of Christ 2,000 years ago in Egypt, Jamaica. What I'm saying, I'm looking at this realistically and rationally, family. This ain't no spookism. The concept of a Christ figure, the concept of an individual bearing the cross within the Western world, Western civilizations of the Inca and the Aztecs and the Mayans is nothing strange. So you can find glyphs of the god Kulkukan carrying the cross. He is the same Quetzalcoatl in another form, carrying the cross. Now, I am not sure if they would have discovered anything like this in Jamaica specifically. But, although we are scientists and we love absolute proof, relative proof is good too. The fact that you would have discovered glyphs of the Mayan god, the Inca god, literally carrying a cross. And now you obviously are going to date this approximately maybe 1,500 years ago. Carrying a cross in the Western world. And remember, these islands and Central and South America, and to some extent, Turtle Island too, which is the US of A, would be inhabited by similar people with similar ideas, with a similar culture. So you have the Mayans, you have the Aztecs, you have the Siboneyes, the Taínos, you have the Incas, you have the Mystics, you still have those people up there, the Cherokee and these sort of people there. But yet still they may be different in certain ways, but they have a similar outlook. They all check for the feathered snake. They all check for Quetzalcoatl or Kulkakun or Shaite Kotley, but they all check for that concept and similar understanding. So the Arabs, not the Arabs, pardon me, the Arawaks and the Caribs as well. These are ones that you would find in the islands. And obviously they had a strong connection with the people in Belize and Guatemala, Argentina, and all of these different places. So the concept, and I'm trying to be realistic and scientific and even scholarly with my people here. The concept of a Christ figure being crucified in the Western world 2,000 years ago is not an idea that I would be too hasty to dismiss. If we are really truthful and scholarly, we should at least investigate this a bit more. Now, I must invoke the name of the Honorable Priest Bob. And the Honorable Priest Bob is an ancient who would have gone into the realms of the ancestors. And Priest Bob is an individual that I would have reasoned with any chance I got as it relates to his tradition with the Honorable King Emmanuel Charles Edwards. Priest Bob said that the first time he met the Honorable King Emmanuel, he was at, Priest Bob was, I think he was selling something somewhere, shirts or ganzi, something he was selling. And he said the father passed him in a red robe as if he was floating going up the road. And he, Priest Bob, followed after him and he has been following him ever since, you know. So I would have asked Priest Bob as it relates to the crucifixion of the Christ figure. And if it really took place 2,000 years ago in Egypt, Jamaica, and his words were that the crucifixion took place somewhere in the 60s. I said the 60s. As a man that was with the father in the 60s, he even went as far as to say that the governor at the time, Governor Hugh Foot, would have had in his possession the sole remaining 10 penny nail. That's exactly how he referred to it as a 10 penny nail that they would have used to crucify the Christ. So in other words, they had 5 of them. And they utilized 4, I think. Or they had 4 and they utilized 3. But whatever the case is, they had 1 remaining, the 10 penny nail. And Hugh Foot had that 10 penny nail of which they used the others to crucify the Christ. So obviously, from the way Priest Bob is expressing this to me, this is a literal thing. No symbolism, nothing here. They crucified the Christ with nails in the 60s in Jamaica. I'm telling you what the elder said. And he was with the Christ at that time. Maybe not with him when they crucify him, but he was in that whole salvation order at that time, from what I'm gathering from him. That is the Honorable Priest Bob. So follow this, family. And this is not to even swell your head, It's just to meditate. I would have covered this already. These ideas are not way off Rastafari. This is not something spooky. This is not religion. In 1963, are you with me? In 1963, on the 12th of April, specifically Good Friday, they had one of the worst massacres ever amongst an indigenous people who were just living up and standing for their rights. We're talking about the Coral Gardens Massacre. I hear they're calling it the Coral Gardens Incident. Which incident? That ain't no incident. That's a massacre. Although it was, I guess, an incident, really, that would have originated it, if that's the case, if that's what they're trying to say. And yes, we would all agree that the massacre went way beyond the boundaries of Coral Gardens. For sure. I'm talking about Rastaman. This is not just one day now, several days. And in fact, it's not even several days. It was a culture that would have climaxed. And to me, that culture is still around, even up to a day like today. That culture still exists. It may not appear as obvious as in the time of the massacre at Coral Gardens, but it's still there. According to the government of the day, you bring in Rasta dead or alive. Yeah? So if you bring them dead, no questions asked. Imagine that. Not if you're a police, anybody. You bring in Rastaman dead or alive. Just imagine that. And it was not a case as if the population was fully on the side of Rastafari neither, They rose up because they were well brain scrubbed. Remember, this is the rise of Rastafari. We never see nothing like this. This man coming out and this matted hair and the beard and this different, no shoes in many cases, and living off of the land and living off of nature and beating drums and praising Haile Selassie. And that's another thing you have to keep in mind, Haile Selassie is the emperor of Ethiopia. And for you to be hailing the emperor and flying his flag, and flying his flag when we have Queen Elizabeth, that was problems. That was problems. That was treason, really, So even that was reason enough for them to persecute and to beat up the Rasta. Many Rastafari died. I'm talking about the followers of the King of Kings, man, who were just living up and trying to find their souls and trying to find their spirit, trying to shake off the shackles of colonialism and imperialism, had to come to the brutality of the Jamaican police. That's 1963 I'm talking about. The Coral Gardens Massacre, Good Friday. Think about that, Rastafari. Remember Good Friday now is the day when they celebrate the crucifixion of Christ. And at that same time, you have the Rasta man and woman who are the embodiment of the Christ. being massacred like they've never been massacred before. That's Coral Gardens massacre. I want you to keep this in mind. The only thing that you can equate to that is in 1958 at Bakawal, which I will be getting to that in a few moments. But let's stick to Coral Gardens massacre. On Good Friday, what kind of thing is this? They're crucifying the Christ. Now, as I said, it's not just a day. In fact, again, it was to me the climax of a culture that is still around. But obviously, the day before, the day after, 2 days before, 2 days after, the energy was basically the same. Just keep all of this in mind. Rastaman were being persecuted from such time because remember, they have the story of the man that they say raped the Chinese man and raped the Chinese woman and killed the Chinese man, some kind of story like that. And then there was this robbery at a gas station. This several events, and the thing at Rose Hall. So this was leading up to the climax. Now, according to the Bobo Shanti story, the Christ figure all that week was going through persecution. Interesting. According to the Bobo Shanti narrative, all that week he was before the judge. Now, Rastaman were before the judge. He was hung. They hang Rastaman too. Specifically that week I'm talking about. Well, in general, but that happened that week. Now, the whole concept of them hanging him and he didn't die. Oh man, you see them kind of fairy tales happening there. What fairy tale? Let's take a trip to Mount Song. Huh? Where? Mount Song. Okay? The Shaolin Temple. And I can show you little children hanging themselves every morning, just practicing, hanging themselves for up to 5-10 minutes. And then they come down and go and have breakfast. People do that today, not no old time technique, Now it's happening. You can hang yourself and don't die and sit in the lotus position in midair with the rope holding you up. But obviously, it's something you have to practice. Masters can do that. So according to the story, when they hung the master on the Tuesday, he didn't die. According to the story, they crucified him at Mother White Bridge. On the Wednesday. Threw him in the tomb. And he resurrected the Friday. Priest Bob, when did this happen? This happened in the 60s. Interesting. And he resurrected Good Friday. This happened in the 60s. This is something else. Wow. So what about the story of Christ being crucified 2,000 years ago in Egypt, Jamaica, according to Priest Bob? This happened in the 60s. No, I mean, don't get me wrong. They have other elders, I could call their names, that stick to the story that Christ was crucified 2,000 years ago in Egypt, Jamaica, just so I can balance the conversation properly. Priest Bailey is an individual that's very much adamant that this happened 2,000 years ago in Egypt, Jamaica. All right, good. Fair enough. Let's return to the 60s. So interestingly now, one of the most horrendous acts that has ever been done to Rastafari as a movement, as a people, the Coral Gardens massacre, took place in the 60s, 1963. Very interesting, the same time the OAU was forming. And the king came to Jamaica 3 days, 3 years after the Coral Gardens massacre. Almost to the day, you know. The king came in April 66. Coral Gardens massacre is April 63. 3 years after the emperor came. Remember, it's three days and 3 nights, and then he resurrected. Rastafari really resurrected when the emperor came, Haile Selassie. When the Haile Selassie came, that was a serious resurrection after that brutal beating in 1963 and running for our lives and hiding for almost 3 years in the total dark until the king came. Now, when the king came, after the king left, we went to a next level of brutality. You know? But you could see that the wheels of time was definitely rotating. Things were moving to a different level, different directions. Even the Congress itself was rising. That's why the Honorable said this was the highlight of the Congress, the man, when the king came in 1966. So again, you can see that there is a reasonable understanding of where all of this fit in. In fact, I would have asked elders, where was King Emmanuel during Coral Gardens massacre? Most ones not too sure. I mean, at 63, and many ones were not with him at the time. And I remember one elder telling me that from his knowledge, the father, King Emmanuel, was away from any brutality. This is what he said in 1963. So the brutality never really reached him. Okay, good, fair enough. Now remember, you know, family, I wasn't there, nowhere around. I wasn't even born. I can only tell you what the elders say, but I use my intelligence and cipher things out. 1958. Hear this, no man. 1958. You don't have to ask where King Emmanuel was. The 1st to the 21st day of March. This is when the Congress began officially. So all when the Coral Gardens massacre, the Bad Friday massacre, that's why they call it Bad Friday, not Good Friday. When that massacre was going down, the same time they arrested Martin Luther King and Shuttleworth and Ralph Abernathy, pardon me. they arrested them in the USA. That's the same day of the Coral Gardens massacre, the exact same day when they arrested Martin Luther King. Is the arrest boss him, you know? Yeah, man. Yeah. Check the science, eh? The heavens declare the alignment. And it's a Good Friday. Up from the grave heroes. Because now in 1958, in 1958, we all know that when the police came down on the Rasta family, between 3,000 to 5,000 Rastas there, you know, the police swooping on them. Remember, they're there for almost 21 days, celebrating and burning fire and the whole works. Nyabingi, the first Nyabingi, King Emmanuel called this a international conference, freedom and repatriation. Enough ones sell off things and leave all sort of people behind, mother, wife, children, say, yeah, I go into Africa. And they're there and they're celebrating. And after a while, some brethren got unruly according to the story and broke off the arm of Queen Victoria. And that was it. The police came in and they started to brutalize and beat up and massacre the brethren and the sisters that were there. And I think everyone knows that the Honorable King Emmanuel Charles Edwards would have borne the brunt of this stuff to the point that in many cases, one's thought that he was dead. This ain't no joke. This dead thing ain't no plaything, eh? Dead. To the point that, according to some elders, Priest Zebi, we did the whole lecture with Priest Zebi interview. We have it on our channel. And Priest Zebelan clearly said that they came and they took the Honorable King Emmanuel to the morgue. I guess they were killing so much Rasta, they just said, hey, this is our next dead one. And they carry him to the morgue. And when they opened the ambulance, according to Priest Zebi, the king was there sitting down in blood and sweat. Mm-hmm. According to Bongo Flacco, that is where Prince Emmanuel get in power. They beat him and beat him and beat him and throw him over a fence or something, and not one of his bones were broken. That's Bongo Flacco speaking this. Even Ras Bonagees. Listen, we did a whole program on this already when we highlighted all of these individuals I'm talking about. Maybe I need to do it again or replay the program. Ras Bonagees, man. An individual who when he came to Antigua, he showed us that, man, he get blow already till he pass out. Yet still even he couldn't believe the type of blows Prince Emmanuel would have been receiving. Bongo Roy was being beaten while Prince Emmanuel was being beaten. And he was like, he can't believe one man taking all those blows. The police baton broke in three. The riot baton, which is made from a specific wood that they say doesn't break. This is serious in a royal family. Just understand, this is 1958. The 1st to the 21st day of March. This is the official beginning of the Congress. And this is how it started, with real brutality. And this is why you would hear us say he paid the price to open up the doors and to lay the foundation for this. And then, of course, even just the persecution in general that followed. But my point is that at this time, many ones considered him dead. Now, am I saying that, oh, well, this must be the crucifixion? Listen, as I said earlier, many of the prophecies, many of the esoteric symbolic gestures are continuous. It's not just this time. It's not just that time. It's not just him. It's not just them. It's a continuous process. The sun set and rise every day, whether it's in Pisces, whether it's in Aries, whether it is in Aquarius, it sets and rises every day. You see what I'm saying? Everyone knows that the concept of Christ bearing the 5 bleeding wounds and going into the underworld and rising up and resurrecting and all of that, I clearly see that Haile Selassie the first fulfilled that specifically when he went into the underworld, when he went into the period they call exile. That's the prophecy lick out there. Blam, 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 blam. Undeniable. But that's a program within itself. A series of programs really to get all the juice out of that story there, out of that episode, out of that understanding. But again, it doesn't limit it to that. Again, it happens within you. You yourself, don't leave yourself out of the story now. That's why we say Holy Emmanuel. Don't leave yourself out. Selassie, who? Don't leave yourself out. Rastafari. Well, yeah, but Rastafari. Don't leave yourself out. About 3 eyes there. Holy Emmanuel, Selassie, Jah, Rastafari, Don't leave yourself out, because the Christ is within you. Yeah, we all go through our persecution and our crucifixion too, but look forward with faith to the resurrection. Whether it's Lent or not, life itself carries you through that. So even at this time now, Mother Whitebridge, Because everything I mentioned here, you know, wasn't necessarily the Mother Whitebridge story. The Mother Whitebridge story seems to be very specific. Again, they took him from St. Catherine's prison, pardon me, and they paraded him down Spanish Town Road, brought him to Mother Whitebridge. Now, this is accounts that I'm saying from different elders, and even what I would have read in pamphlets. And because, again, I know that is the master teaching us, you know, as he himself says, this is not an Anansi story. Yeah. So obviously he's something, you know, yeah. This is deep. You must understand the man, King Emmanuel, you know. Those of you who have ever grown up around any real elders, you know, elders have a mystic spirit. This is mystic times 99. So you're getting this story here now. And they crucified him at Mother White Bridge. One priest tell me that he can carry me and show me. I gonna call his name. It's an elder priest by the name of Priest Garth from Trinidad. He told me he can carry me. I know I'm talking the truth. And show me the tree where they hang the man. Not in Trinidad, in Jamaica, you see me? So, I mean, like, okay. So you can see he has fixated his mind that this is exactly how it goes. You know, no mix me up with what happened in 1958 and don't mix up this with no Carroll Gardens massacre. This is the crucifixion of Christ. Mother White Bridge. Now, again, there are many ones that don't really go for that. I've never been to Mother White Bridge. Yalla's Pond. I don't even know where that is, you see. But what I know, what I've heard, is that this is an area where they would have brought slaves. And there was some level of a slave auction that would have taken place right there at Mother White Bridge. And boys and girls were sold at Mother White Bridge at Yalla's Pond. In fact, there's this saying too, I would have heard that King Emmanuel say that you're not supposed to, I think, is live or sleep beyond Mother White Bridge. So the Mother White Bridge thing is a staple in some way or some form. I wouldn't advise anyone to just throw it away. Because the fact that you are telling me that a lot of things took place at this Mother White Bridge as it relates to slavery, well, right away, I cannot rule out anybody being hung or crucified at Mother White Bridge. Slavery, you say, you know, man. You're talking about auctioning off boys and girls here. As I said, I've never been at the place. I've never even seen a picture of Mother White Bridge. I have no idea. All I'm seeing in my mind is a bridge and I guess something like that. But history says this is the kind of stuff that took place there. Now, you must keep in mind that, again, we all represent the Christ as a people. So when Israel went into captivity for 400 years, it's symbolic of the man himself, the Christ, going into the underworld for 3 days and 3 nights. How am I so sure about that? If it's one thing, you go into the underworld in ships. Don't negate the science of the ships. The ship science is very, very important. So this is why now you have God must return in a ship, you know. The ship thing is deep. That's why Marcus Garvey come with the Black Star Liner steam ship. You know, that's why Christ and his disciples, the man does be on ship and boats. Christ went into a ship to go and preach to the people that were on the shore. The ship, you know. So the boat or the bark of Ra, the ship. That's why in ancient Kemet, all the deities have the ship. And when Ra goes into the underworld in the Book of Gates, he goes in his ship. So the story says that Osiris went into the underworld for 400 years in his ship. So Osiris is the Christ figure. And he went into the underworld for 400 years in a ship. That is symbolic of us. Many times you read about Christ, it's us you're reading about, you know. Then again, Holy Emmanuel, I. And Selassie, I. And John Marcus, I. And Empress Menen, I. All the eyes, I. Rastafari, I. It's us. That's why the term Jesus. Jesus, Jes. John, Emmanuel, Selassie, hyphen, and us. Us, me and you. Just us. So we are part of the Jesus, you know. Me and you are literally part of the Jesus. So you have to see yourself in the picture. So the crucifixion and this massacre at Mother White Bridge, I am sure, I am positive, just you explaining to me what happened there, just you explaining to me the nature of the place, where the slaves would come and they auction them off. Man, I could imagine the levels of brutality that would have gone down in a place like that. To the Christ children, to the Christ boy, to the Christ girl, to the Christ man and woman, prince and princess, because we are all the body of Christ. The church is the body of Christ. Not the building, you know, the church, the people. We are the goody of the Christ. So the whole concept of the crucifixion of the Christ and the resurrection of the Christ, it's us. It's individually you, but it's still us as a group too. And it's still the man himself. And if you want to put him 2,000 years ago in Egypt, Jamaica, well, it's up to you too, because I wouldn't doubt it. Because as I said at the beginning, when you understand the esoteric is not only a prophecy for a specific time, but it can be a prophecy that is continually cycling, reoccurring over and over again, because it's a living prophecy, you know. So you may be arguing that, oh no, it's not this man, it's that man. It may be both of them. What's the problem? It's not this time, it's that time. It may be the both times. What's the problem? You know, because what the father went through in 58, and then what Rastaman in general, follow it, no man, what Rastaman in general as a group went through in 1963, Good Friday. Interesting. What we as a people, black people went through at Mother White Bridge, I could only imagine. What the emperor went through from 1936 to 41, the 5th of May to the 5th of May, that is the 5 bleeding wounds that the Christ bore, and he resurrected. So you see, this is a deep science. We have not even scratched the surface, you know, because this is coming from the whole mechanism of the sun. And us understanding, again, as I said at the beginning, if you are not watching this from the beginning, you should check it from the beginning. Don't think, oh, I missed half already. You can just go and start over and get it good, because we clarified that the ancient mystics of the heavens and all that is around us was utilized by the ancient astronomers and put in hieroglyphic form and put in book form, really, as well. But these prophecies must come to pass because the heavens don't lie. That's the point. They will crystallize in human being, in human flesh, and in circumstances and in geopolitics as well, which we have seen. That's why the scripture says the Lion of Judah shall rise, and the King of Kings, and we see it happen live and direct, because this is what the ancients looked up in the heavens, and they observed the sun going through Leo, and they knew that that lion will come one day, and he came. So yeah, in the midst of the East Star and all of that stuff. So this is why the Bobo Shanti is very firm. It may look religious to you, but very firm that Good Friday is not the crucifixion, but Good Friday is the resurrection. So Sunday now, when we done past that stage, as if we somewhere else, you'd hear the world talking about Christ is resurrected. Well, not the world, but maybe a fraction of the world. The Ethiopians, as in many cases, have a different outlook on even their Easter and their Good Friday and their Easter Sunday, which they really are a part of that. Good Friday, the crucifixion, Easter Sunday, the resurrection, but the time frame is different. I think they have a next week or a couple of weeks to go before they even come to an end with that. That is quite interesting as well, you know. So there's a lot to look into. There's a lot to observe and study. I'm just asking my royal family, please don't be closed-minded. Please don't limit yourself to nobody's dogma. You know, try to think for yourself as well. Of course, you'd have to listen to what I say and listen to what others say, but think for yourself as well, eh? Yeah, life giver and the keeper of life. Royal family, give thanks. Art of resurrection, art of celebration. Double Sabbath with us. Holy Manuel, Selassie, Jah, Rastafari. Blessed love. Blessed love. I am the Honorable Priest Isaac. I am an official priest within the realms of Rastafari of the Ethiopia Africa Black International Congress. I also hold a certification in the craft of archaeoastronomy from Politecnico di Milano in Italy. Our universe and its makeup has always been an intriguing subject for humankind. Astronomy is the study of everything in the universe beyond the Earth's atmosphere. Ancient astronomy is similar, but pays special attention to the physical and spiritual values of stars, planets, moons, and other celestial objects. It also brings in the terrestrial component, being things on an earthly plane, such as plants, human organs, and connects them to the heavenly bodies. In this course, you will learn the makeup of various planets and stars, how to locate them in the night sky, along with their associated constellations. You will also be taught about the earliest civilizations known for their astronomical comprehension, namely Kush, also known as ancient Ethiopia, Kemet, called Egypt today, the Dogons, and the Bozos, as well as the civilization of Sumer. You will also learn about black holes, their nature and origin, as well as how the ancients viewed them. Ancient astronomy is the mother of archaeoastronomy and theology. Both subject areas are covered by the Priest Isaac's Institute of Holistic Knowledge. Sign up today. Visit our website, priestisaacinstitute.com, or email us, priestisaacinstitute@gmail.com, for more information.